Welcome to Season 3 of the Get Set podcast, an old girls entertainment production. We are so eager to be back and sharing our experiences as three women in the TV and film industry.
Today, we're dishing out the best advice and the worst advice we've been given in the industry. And we might just dish out some of our own advice, what's worked for us, and what we suggest instead.
Some of my favorite episodes we've done really end up being the episodes that we are chock full of inspiration to keep you going through the feast and the famines of the industry. This episode is completely dedicated to that. We hope you laugh, who knows, maybe even cry, but absolutely come out the other end ready and excited to take on your creative endeavors. So, let's talk about it. We'll kind of hit up the good stuff first. I will say the first kind of good advice that I've gotten is the answer is always no if you don't ask. I think that's a big one. Along with, not making sure you tell people what you want and need.
Yes. And again, especially if you're a multi-hyphenate, because I mean, I know, even now too, I think a lot of people categorize like, oh yeah, Hannah's an actor, but it's like, oh wait, stand-up is her stand-up is her bread and butter. And so if you knew Hannah from 2 years ago, maybe people would have just, said she's an actor, but really she's a stand-up comedian. And so I think, or same thing with me, like people would just say, oh yeah, Monique's an actor, but they might not know that, oh, she's a producer too, she's produced this and da-da-da-da-da. So definitely letting people know how much, what you're working on and what you want, I think definitely goes hand in hand with that, like you were saying.
Yeah, and another good advice too is not letting yourself get lost in the industry. I know I kind of just spit out pretty quickly, but I think that's all kind of part of it, especially if you're just starting out in the industry, kind of starting out in a different position or a lower position of crew or whatever, and you want to get or pivot your way up to a different position. You have to tell people where you want to go and what you want to do. And part of that is one, not letting yourself get lost in just being a PA. Unless you want to stay a PA, then that's fine. But if you're just wanting to be a PA, or if you're just a PA and you're I want to become whatever the X is, you need to tell people around you what you want, and also continue outside of workplace environment pursuing that.
Because you've had this success with that in being a writer. I mean, people ask you on set as a PA, what do you want to do? And then you've been invited to, meet and greets with fellow writers on the shows that you've worked on, and you never would have gotten in those rooms or been a part of those networking events had you not spoken up and said, oh no, I'm a writer director.
Yeah, exactly. And the answer is always going to be no if you ask, or don't. If you don't ask, then for sure it's going to be no. For sure it's going to be and two, if you're a PA, a set PA, then it can be assumed, because technically what the working up the ladder is that you want to become an AD. And if you don't want to become an assistant director, then you need to tell people where you want to go and pivot to. Because that is technically the ladder up. But, sometimes our ways into the industry are not necessarily where we start out is not where we want to end up, or the trajectory that we want to be going. Yeah.
Especially for actors too, because there's so many different jobs within this. You could be interested in music videos. And for anyone, you could be interested in short films. You could be interested in features. And if your agent is only submitting you for network TV shows, maybe you really want to do indie features and they're not even submitting you for them because the pay isn't that much yet. So yeah, saying hey, this is something that I really want to do, instead of just not talking about it at all, it's not going to change if you don't speak up.
Yeah, and two, just not letting yourself get lost in the industry is another huge one. Or again, I know I've said that again, but pursuing things outside of the industry is super, and not outside of the industry, but outside of what your day job is in the industry, is super important. And with that in mind, another really good advice I've had and been told, like from school, Hannah, where we went to school, I was told, always have your next project in mind, which is so true. Like every time we've gone to a film festival, like anytime there's like a Q&A or anyone asks about the film, it's like, okay, what's next? What do you have coming next? And if you're there, I mean, you don't have to have anything necessarily set in stone, but if you have an idea, if you have something that you're like trying to work on, or like, again, maybe it's, oh yeah, I'm an actor in this film and it was great. I'm actually want to like produce and like looking to produce or whatever it is, I'm just always having like that next thing in mind to continue to have a talking point. And I think part of that is yeah, like a talking point, and also people are usually asking you those things because they want to see, like, one, where you're going, but then two, can they connect with you? Is there a way in which that they can help you or whatever? They want to have like some sort of connection there.
Hannah, what one do you have? What piece of good advice do you have?
Good advice.
Good advice.
What are we doing? Oh yeah, good advice. Well, like for comedy, being funny, be funny in comedy. That's a really solid. But truly just like letting go. Like, I think if you're pursuing a performance career, and especially comedy, you get funny when you kind of start letting go of a lot of things. Whether it is like certain like thoughts about yourself and how you think you're perceived, or just letting go in that moment when you're on stage, because live performance is so all-encompassing of like you, and like every little aspect of what's going on is affecting your performance. And if you can let go and just kind of sit into whatever's going on and be present, that is kind of like the golden ticket, because it's like not every show is going to be great. It's not always going to be good. But if you can sit into it and play into whatever that scenario is for that performance, do that. And then if it was bad, walk off stage and let that go too. Like, you just have to move on and do it again, because you'll probably do it again and it'll probably be better. And then you'll probably do it again after that and it'll probably be really bad. And then you'll do it and you'll be better. And it's just kind of a constant thing. Even professionals who like household names, even they still have bad sets and hard performances.
Have you ever gotten any good advice in terms of how to be present? Like, is there anything physically or mentally that has helped you do that?
I wouldn't say anyone's given me advice. I think you feel it once you start doing it, and everyone has their own ways of getting there, and it's very dependent on where you are at that day. So it's hard because it's like everyone's going to be very different. Mm-hmm. But I think just like remembering that this is your moment on stage, and to just stay present, and however you need to do that, whether it's just like breathing techniques, or you have a weird mantra that you say, or like the old like picture everybody in their underwear, which is such a dumb, but like it's like the idea behind that.
Yeah, I think you hit upon like a couple good things. I really like breathing techniques. I did a lot of voice and movement training in college, and so it's like connecting, your brain to your breath, connecting your body to your breath, and it just kind of like settles me in and makes me aware of, like, in a good way, of my body and space. But I think the good advice that I've received, and kind of what you just said, is you're going to need different things on different days. So if you're trying, let's say you're in a play and, you have this big emotional scene, maybe the way you prepped every day for the past month is not going to work that day.
That's very true.
And so a same thing for your comedy set. You could have the same set that you did last week, and whatever prep you're doing is not helping you for today. Or is not tapping you into the right headspace. So I think, definitely giving yourself grace and having like a big bag of tricks. Be like, okay, this trick isn't working today. Let me try this one. Oh, no, this one isn't working today. Let me try this.
Well, yeah, and especially with a live audience, everyone's going to be different. Every single one's going to be different. So it's like seeing if you are present with yourself and with them, you're more likely to have a better set because you're like, okay, I'm not just saying my jokes and whether they like them or not. You can be like, oh, you don't like this. Why? And let's see why. And let me see if I can pivot to something else. Or can I make it funny, the fact that you don't like it? And can we talk about that? And like make it an open discussion. So I think if you let go like your expectations of like how certain things are supposed to go, you learn a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one just for life. So let going of expectations. And absolutely. That can go for anyone. Not just performers. Like if you have a meeting set up with another writer or a director or producer, and something doesn't go the way you plan it to go, being able to pivot, like we've said in past episodes, is super important. What else? What other good pieces of advice do we have? I have another one. So I have one from college that I really like. So the people who I went to college with and studied under Svetlana will understand it. It's read the fucking play 3 times. And imagine doing that in a Russian accent. But basically it means that, if you have an audition, and this could be for anything. So if you have an audition, don't just read the script once. Read it multiple times. Understand your part of it. Understand other people's parts of it. Don't just read your lines and then, read it multiple times and know it backwards and forwards. And I think this advice is super important for everything in life because, let's say you have a job interview and in the email it says, something like, please submit these documents, or before you get to set, please submit your I-9 and all, or your W-4 before you get to set, and you just don't do it, and you constantly show up unprepared because you're just not reading the full email. I just think it's really transferable advice to just doing your due diligence as, a performer, as an employee, as, any opportunity that you get.
Yeah, and it shows immediately when someone has and someone hasn't, even just small things. And like you can even show up to like a mic or a show and be like, oh, this person hasn't really done anything or hasn't been putting in the time. And that's always kind of an interesting thing to watch, especially if you know them as a performer.
Yeah, when I've seen a couple of your shows, Hannah, you guys have a certain time frame, and you can tell the people who have put in everything into those 5 minutes, and other people who get up there and tell a couple jokes and they have a minute left, and they're like, "Oh fuck, I'm done." And it's like you should always have stuff in your back pocket, or you clearly didn't time this out properly, and you thought you would wing it, or I don't know,
Well, I think it's like making sure you're over prepared, like having, like if you have a set that's going to be 5 minutes, making sure you have like 7 minutes to pull for if you need it, like handful of like.
Right. And yeah, being flexible, like I was saying, like if they, you want like your tight 5, as they say, of like just really great jokes, like a laugh and a laugh and a laugh and a laugh, but like, it's easy to get stuck in that and be like, this always works, because it's not always going to work. So how do you win an audience that you can't seem to get? It's like you maybe start with that set and then you're like, oh, they're not liking this. And you need to be able to clock that. You have to get good enough to be like, okay, they're not loving this. Why? Does that mean they're not going to like what's coming because it's similar or it leads into it or something? So you have to be able to pivot and just adapt and hope that works.
Yeah, I think reading the room for anyone is really important. Reading the room, and and kind of just like being aware of your surroundings. You can do all the prep work that you want, but kind of like you were saying, to be present, you can't shut out all the outside factors. Because then you can miss that, you didn't listen to directions, or you didn't hit your mark correctly, or this person's crossing when whatever it is, and for whatever profession that you have. I mean, if you're a gaffer and you think of your setup, and then you get there and they tweak something about the set and it doesn't work anymore, everybody has to pivot and be able to work off of each other.
Yeah, you need to be self-aware, but you also need to know what's going on.
Yes.
It's the balance of the two.
Also, so something that I really like, and we've kind of said it before in other ways, but I like the concept that, you're only in competition with yourself. And I didn't hear that piece of advice in the beginning, because I went through a competitive program in college, and then you graduate, and then I was auditioning, and people looked like me, people didn't look like me, and I was always like, okay, I have to be better than them. I have to be, I have to look this way more than they do, or whatever it is. And really, it kind of goes hand in hand with the advice that we've already said, that like, what's for you is for you. As long as you're prepared, that's really all you can do. And I think it pushes me more than thinking about myself in competition with other people, because then if I look at someone else and I was like, okay, they did A, B, and C is my threshold. But if I'm only in competition with myself, like, maybe I can go to D, E, F, G. You know what I mean? I'm not stopping myself or limiting myself to what others are doing. But I don't know. I just, and I like the idea of not being in competition with other people. I think it makes our jobs in the industry more bearable. If we're rooting for each other, it makes the audition room less stressful. If I'm like, you know what, I hope I kill it, and I hope you go in there and you kill it too. Because at some point it's going to be my time, and at some point it's going to be your time.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's one of the things I have for like my bad advice. Is like, you hear like that other stand-ups, other comics, like they're your competition, especially because like acting, at least in the beginning of like getting a job, it's very insular, and it's just you, and you're like, this is what I got. And so people are just like, oh, well, like that person's kind of like me, so it's a competition. They're getting more laughs than me, so whatever. And really, that doesn't help you. You just alienate yourself. And I think what's helped me the most is when I've taken that away and been like, okay, no, I have something very specific I bring to the stage. Even if I don't like always think that, even if I'm like, oh, I'm so basic, whatever. I have something very specific to bring to the stage. That person does. Like, they can't do what I do. I can't do what they do. And remembering that, like, we're getting laughs for different things. And I think they're funny because they are funny. And that doesn't make me not funny. And I think doing that and then making friends through that helps your career so much more. And I mean, yeah, technically it's networking, but I think you have to come at it from a more genuine and authentic place. You can't, like, go into a situation like that and be like, I'm gonna network, and then kind of have that facade of it. Because, yeah, technically, this is my career. I'm networking every time I go to a mic, every time I go to a show, and I talk to people, and I follow their Instagrams, and I become friends with them, and I follow up with them. But you can't be like, hey, oh my God, we need to work on this, and this, and be that kind of like fake network vibe, because it's going to turn everybody off. No one wants that. People want genuine connections and relationships, and that's how you get further.
Right. I think it's like going in with the intention of being yourself and making friends instead of seeing everybody as an opportunity.
Exactly. Make friends. Yeah, and you don't have to be friends with everyone. You should probably be nice to everybody. You know, you'll probably see these people over and over. You don't have to be friends with everyone. That's fine.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I booked the last co-star that I booked. I booked it with another. There was 3 of us that got hired, and one of the other ones, we did an acting class together 11 years ago. And I haven't seen her in like at least 6 years. And then we booked this job together. I mean, imagine if I was mean. Or imagine if either of us were mean. And it's like, wow, she was such a bitch in class. But we were totally nice. We remembered each other. We were happy to be on set together. We were excited. It was really helpful because it was an emotional scene. And so it helped to have, it just helped to have a buddy there. Like someone that you trusted, someone that, you've been vulnerable with before. But yeah, literally, you could work with this person 11 years later, and you just
it's still a small town.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
You stay in it, you just see the same people over and over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you meet more, and then you see them over and over, and it gets bigger that way.
And those people know those people. And so if it's you are nice to person A, but person A is friends with person B, and you are a bitch to person B, they're going to talk to each other.
Exactly. And it's always interesting. Sometimes I'll see new comics kind of coming in and being really intense about their work, which is no problem with that. But being really intense and almost brushing people off. You can kind of watch it, and you're like, oof, don't do that.
Well, yeah, do you want to be on tour with that person? Do you want to be backstage with... Well, yeah, do you want to be on tour with that person? Probably not. Do you want to be backstage with that person for hours before the show? Probably not. I was having this conversation about someone who was applying for not an entertainment job, just like a job outside. And they were like, oh, I'm sure I think they hired someone who, who's within their department already. And, you kind of have a different perspective of it because I get it. It could feel like nepotism, but at the same time, if you're going to work with someone for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and you've already worked with them, and you already know you can work well together, or you just know that they're an easygoing person, or they're going to show up on time, or they're going to be professional, that is why casting offices keep on calling certain people back, or certain, booking people. I don't know who your booking people are called, Hannah, but who the bookers? Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, literally.
Bookers keep hiring certain comics back is because you're reliable. You're a good person to deal with. They're not, it kind of makes sense. It makes sense that people would want to work with people that they like, that have a proven positive track record.
Yeah, because even if they're like the funniest person in the world, if it's not certain that they're going to show up, or if they're like terrorize everyone, like who are you gonna like support? The person who's like still making their way and like still learning the ropes a little bit, but like is reliable and like happy to be around, or nice to be around, versus someone who is funny but like maybe they don't show up, or maybe they're like cause scenes or whatever, like
right. And you can be hilarious and have a bad set, but if you're great to work with and overall, like, people will rebook you, they'll be like, oh yeah, that happens, sometimes you have a bad set, like when they know you, right? That's cool.
In the world of cancel culture where we're
that's what I would yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. I feel like luckily the talent pool, or even like behind the camera, the pool is so big now. There's so many people. You're replaceable. I don't think being so good at your job means you're going to keep working if you're an asshole. I think assholes are getting fired every day and not rehired every day.
The one good thing about social media is it's kind of given everyone an ability, not everyone, but most people, an ability to have like a voice at, in some way or the other. Before it was like you could, you wouldn't have like a microphone. Like, who's going to listen to a grip or whatever who's pissed off because an actor was mean to him? or like on a, you know, before there was social media. Now it's like, oh my God, spill the tea. Who was mean to you?
Right.
Who are we gonna cancel? You know what I mean? Like,
True.
So
that recently happened in the comedy community. It's been really interesting. There's a comic that a lot of people know, not fame wise, but like through comics and stuff, and someone that we're always like, we don't know how we feel about this person, recently attacked another comic and has become physically attacked another comic outside of a comedy club a lot of us go to, and has become a thing where the police wouldn't arrest him because LAPD, and not even going to get started with that. But we're all reaching out to like the DA and whatever, and now he's like banned basically from all these clubs. But that wouldn't have happened if, first of all, I don't know if that would have happened like 20 years ago, like actually banning someone for doing that, especially a male comic towards a female comic. Even with just social media, you know, she was able to share her story, thank God, and everyone has just been like, absolutely not. It's gone like mini viral within our community, and everyone's like, no. Other states, comedy communities are like, yeah, nope, not welcome here. And it's been very interesting to watch. And thank God she's okay.
Oh my gosh. That's horrible. Yeah. So yes.
Another good advice, don't attack people.
Don't attack people. That should be actually at the top of your list. On set. On stage.
And we laugh about it, but actors and performers do it. And I mean, not like they shouldn't do it out on the street. But yeah, we've talked about it on the podcast before. I've been in situations where it's if there's something physical in the scene, there's a, you know, if you're not trained in it, don't do it. You know, talk to your partner. Someone should never make you, like a teacher should never make you get physical with another student without training or without consent. That is a huge, huge red flag. Yeah. Oh God, that's awful.
How about bad advice?
Yeah, let's segue into why. Yeah, this is already segueing to bad advice.
And how it can be better.
I did start some of my bad advice already. I know.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with a fun little story, because I know in college it was said, like a professor said, like, oh, once you're done with a short film or whatever, you should email everyone and just say thank you, because you never know like who's gonna go, you know, be whatever, you know, and just to continue your contacts and everything. And usually, like, on small sets, everyone has, like, their emails, like, on the sheet or whatever, because it's, like, 8 people at max, and that way everyone can kind of contact anyone if you need a quick hand or whatever. However, one time, and it was, like, the first show that I was, like, reoccurring day playing on as a PA, heard that there was one person who went to the office, got the master list of everyone on the show, including, like, the highest of high, like, EP, and emailed everyone and said, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Jesus Christ.
And the highest of high EP was like, who the F is this person? And blacklist them. They're never going to be on one of my sets again. This EP is, like, super, super, like, he works a lot. So, yeah, I would say email everyone thank you if you've, like, had, like, a nice connection with them, or on set if you've actually, like, seen them face to face. If you have, like, the emails provided, not going out of your way to run to the office, ask for the entire crew list, and then email everyone. Like, because when you're on a big show, like, there's hundreds of people working, you've clearly not ran into every single person.
And every single person doesn't have a hand in hiring you.
Yeah.
Like, why would you say thanks for having me? That doesn't make sense.
It's kind of weird.
Listen, I think it was, like, kind of a weird take on it, but I just remember everyone being like, why would that? I'm like, well, maybe if someone doesn't, like, have, like, the wherewithal of it, you know, like doesn't have like the social etiquette or doesn't realize
their first job or something.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, I was told to do this, so I'm going to do it because this is the nice thing to do, and this is how I connect with people. It's like not necessarily.
Yeah,
I think you know it may have been. I think it was an innocent like thing, but it was like,
yeah.
FYI, don't do that. Don't do that.
I think if you're on set and let's just say you're a PA and you worked with an AD that you guys worked really well together. You like really liked them. You want to foster that relationship. You're in camera department, like you're a camera PA or rising through the camera department, and you really somehow got along really well with the DP or someone higher than you. And just being like, hey, thanks. I really enjoyed this job. Loved working with you. Sure. Yeah. You're not going to know everybody on set. You're not.
Right. And
that kind of goes hand in hand, too, with following people on Instagram that are private. Like going to the directors of certain shows that you like. If they have a private Instagram account and they have 200 followers and they follow maybe 100 people, if the number's low, they're using that account for personal reasons and it's not public for a reason. If you are, you know, mutual friends and you've met before, like Hannah said, and you had a conversation, the vibes were good. I mean, don't get offended if they don't accept it, because there could be personal stuff on there, like about their family, their kids, that they don't want the world to have access to. But, you know, if someone has a public account, that's completely different. But if it's a private account, I think it could be a red flag to some people that, you know, you see that it's private and they only have a few people and you are a random actor, performer, worker, you know, PA, that they have no idea who you are and this is how you decide to reach out.
They have like 300 followers.
Strange.
Come on. Let's...
Yeah.
Another one of my bad advices, mainly because it kind of deterred me a little bit, was I had people like say like if you don't have to write every day, or if you don't have to whatever every day, then you're not a blank. If you're not, then you're not a writer. And it kind of deterred me of like, okay, well, I've not written my entire life before like now-ish or whatever, so then I'm not a writer. And clearly like that's like changed, obviously mainly because it like had to, just like with my own like story of wanting to direct and going into college and being like, oh, well, if I'm going to direct, I need to write my own stuff, because no one, you know, everyone wants to direct in college, or even in general, too. A lot of people want to do that. So I then ended up becoming a writer and realized I really, really liked it. But I guess I would just say, if that's just something that, like, don't let it deter you from, like, trying new things. If you've just never written or never directed or never edited, like, doesn't mean that that's not what you want to do or will end up doing. I mean, I think once you commit and you're like, okay, actually I really like this, then you should definitely take into practice to write as often as possible, or edit as often as possible, direct as often, you know, whatever, get in that mindset. But yeah, I just think that, you know, having those like strict sayings or those strict rules of like, if you don't do this every day, then you will never be. Like, I think it's a little extreme.
Actors, performers get that same advice too. It's like, well, you can't call yourself an actor if you've never booked anything. It's like, what? If you studied acting, or if you're in a class, or if you're actively pursuing that, and that is your goal, and you are working towards it, you just haven't booked your first project yet,
right?
Or if you haven't booked something in 2 years, that doesn't mean you're not that thing.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're actively working towards it, you are that thing. And if you keep telling yourself that I am not that, then I am not ready, exactly, you won't be. And if you believe in the woo-woo stuff like that I believe in, then you're telling the universe too that like you're not ready for it, or you're not that, which is the vibes that you don't want to put out there.
Yeah, and I also think like the everyday of it all is just very like, you need a day off. Well, and privileged, because sometimes it's just like you can't fit. If I'm like a PA, I'm working 18 hours Monday through Friday, I may not be doing it writing every single day, or you know, doing a monologue, practicing monologue like, you just may not have the freaking time to do it. Or if you're like a mother of whatever, you know, like of 8 or something, and you had
even one is still a lot,
right? And like you had, you know, everything to do that day, like, and you just couldn't fit it in like on that one day. You're still like, you're not an actor, or not a writer, just you didn't do it that day,
right?
It's just 100%.
You could have, God forbid, someone pass away. Like that advice doesn't make sense. That is bad advice. That advice doesn't. Yeah, there's no possible way that you could do something I mean, maybe people do it, but I think, you know, you got to take care of yourself emotionally. You got to take care of your family.
I think that like there are definitely people who can do it and who do everyday stuff. I just would say don't let it, like, if you're just not that person, like, there just are people who can like produce and put out like great work really quickly, and like and a lot of it, they're very prolific, right? But like there are people who, you know, will put out, I don't know, a book every 10 years or something, and doesn't mean that book's not as good as the 20 that Stephen King put out this year. But it means that, like, you know, you're just putting out things at different rates. Doesn't mean that it's not, like, either are not good and neither or both are not writers, you know? Another thing that, and yeah, I guess I would just say, like, to be better, I would just say, like, maybe every day be thinking of yourself as, like, a writer. And if you have the time, if you have the ability to, or whatever position you want to do, if you have the time, you have the ability, then try every day to kind of like think about how I can embody that in one way or another. And again, sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it doesn't mean that you can actively like pursue it every single day, but at least you're thinking of yourself and like manifesting it every day.
Yes.
You say, because I mean, we all have time to manifest at least once. Another bad advice that I have is like, basically, and I know why this advice was given, but it was like, basically not to like hyphenate yourself in terms of like, you can't, like, you shouldn't tell people, oh, I want to write and direct and edit and do all these different things. You should definitely like narrow like what it is you quote unquote want to do. And again, I mainly understand why now whenever I like go up to someone who's like newer at whatever, or newer to the industry, I'm like, oh, well, what do you want to do? And they say like, I want to do everything. It does make it hard for that person to be like, oh, okay, well then let me put you in, like, help you out. It's hard to like categorize. So what I would say, especially if you're starting out, like, and you do want to do like writing, directing, and editing, and like all these different things, or whatever it is, you know, the different hyphenations of like producing, acting, and directing, and everything, and music, I don't know. And you want to do all these things, it's like whoever you're talking to, kind of like tailor it to that person. So if you're talking to an editor and the person's like, what do you want to do? And you have an interest in editing, maybe say, oh, I want to edit. I want to be an editor, or I want to do post-production or something.
I have experience in producing and directing, which I still enjoy, but I have a passion for editing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great way to be like, oh, okay, this person's interested in what I do. I can help them out.
Yeah, it's all about like marketability, but I really think it's like that audience and of like the one-on-one. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still say I'm writer director, but also I guess what I would say with most people, like, we produce as well during, like, I mean, Old Girls Entertainment are producers. Yeah. And we have a podcast and we have all these different things. I mean, we have all these things like going for us. But I definitely, when people like say, what do you want to do? I want to write and direct, you know, that's what I want to do. And like all like the producing side of it, as much as I do love it, it's like that comes along with the writing and directing.
Right. Well, it's a medium for you to do writing and directing. Right. We created this production company so that all three of us can create opportunities for ourselves and our friends.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, those are my bad advices. Advice size.
My least favorite advice, and I think it's bad advice, my least favorite advice that I've ever gotten was from an acting teacher, not in college, in LA, of course, that said, oh yeah, like, you're a cute girl, just post, like, basically, like, thirst traps and posts and to try and get a bigger. This is why Hannah's laughing. Yeah, it was a female. It was a female too.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and well, because this is when, I mean, like, aging myself, this is when, like, we thought that a huge Instagram following is crucial for you to book jobs. It definitely, like, if you're an influencer, can you get into those auditions that you might not have get into before? Sure. There's definitely no argument that influencers have gotten acting jobs purely because they were influencers, 100%. However, it was just, it felt, I think she saw it on my face too. It felt so cringy as I heard it, and I think I even might have said out loud, like, yeah, I'm not doing that. But I was just like, okay, no, I don't know. You know, now we've learned that, like, if you are the person for the job, if you are good at the job, it doesn't matter if you have 200 Instagram followers, because, you know, NCIS doesn't need $100,000 follower co-star on there. They just need the best co-star. They already have, the show already has a following. I don't know. It's probably the worst advice I've ever heard.
Yeah. I mean, if that's your personality and you want to go out and, like, show off your body and be like, I'm cute,
that's fine.
Do that, but, like, yeah, don't do it just because you think it'll help your career in, like, this random avenue.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, we definitely, I mean, I post to, I have a social media definitely to network, 100%. There, you know, there's no doubt about that, but I don't think I need to dress in a bikini every day, or at all.
Not every day.
Not just on Sundays. Sundays or Sundays? Yeah, Sundays are good. I'm just kidding. No, it was just so cringy. It was just so cringy. Yeah, just be confident in who you are and do your thing. Also, a bad piece of advice that I got, again, from a teacher was not to be a server, which was so strange because everyone in my class was a server. And they're like, when you go to LA, like, don't serve, because then, you know, you're gonna be, you know, waiting on someone who's an actor, who's a director, producer, and then they'll see you as a server and they won't see you as an actor. And it sounded wrong. I've never been a server just because it stresses me out, totally not related to acting. But and we've said it on the podcast before, like, if I got Hannah as a server, I would be like, this girl is funny as hell. She is so charming. I would book her in anything. Like, what is that? That doesn't make any sense. And everyone's a server. And it is so conducive to acting because you can work at night and you can go to auditions during the day. It's so conducive to that lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, I think that serving is not necessarily going to get you the job in the room, per se, but I don't think it's going to...
It doesn't hinder you.
Yeah. If anything, it'll give you a great, like, way to, potentially, depending on the restaurant, a great, like, place to have a flexible schedule.
Oh, yeah. My husband worked for, Four Diamond Hotel or something in Hollywood. And, one of the people that he worked with was a bartender, and they're a series regular on a show now. I mean, it's 10 years later, but, like, my husband's not an actor, but he said everyone that he worked with was an actor. And he saw people, you know, get jobs and move on to bigger and better things. And again, that job served what they needed it to. So if you ever hear that piece of advice, I think it's crap.
Yeah, I've heard that so many times before.
Really?
And yeah, it's like it's a thing. It's so weird, and I think it's just like a very old school thing. But it's like I feel like my experience is the opposite. Not that I have been booked, but I've gained followers. Like, people look at my shit and like I have regulars from, like, the last restaurant I worked at that, like, they're always liking, like, a reel I post or, like, whatever. And I know, like, I have that little bit of following, because such Instagram and TikTok for comedy is just, like, everything now.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's just like, oh, it's another person, like, following my career. Awesome. Great.
What a great way to, like, because you have basically 30 minutes to an hour of this like intimate tables like attention for you to like potentially practice bits or at least like crowd work or whatever. Like you can, I mean, obviously in the middle of it you're working and like
don't do your set, but at least being a charming person or at least being a nice person.
I've taken out my Instagram and my website and told people about shows all the time. Like most shifts, something will like come up.
That's great. Yeah, so it's literally the opposite of the advice that we got. I think it is an old school mentality, and it's kind of like one of those. Again, I think recently the veil is being pulled back in terms of, we're allowed to show people that we have other jobs to make money. And I think in the past that was kind of taboo. Like if you are doing anything, like you were saying, Jess, if you're doing anything else, this is not you.
Right.
Well, we have to survive. We have to make a living. So
it's typecasting people.
Right.
It's literally typecasting people. Because if you're a server, then you're not Hollywood's glamour girl of like, who's seen in like, in the glamorous dresses because they only see you. No, I mean, we all know now people and like characters, even, I think that's another thing is like characters now are super multidimensional. Like we like the anti-hero. We like all these different like, we can root for different people. So yeah, I think it's just typecasting and like, I think people understand that. I don't know. People can be more than one thing. Yeah, I was starting to think about like the world, and I was like, "Wait, calm down, Jess." I was like, going to be like, I don't know. Never mind. I won't go into it. Okay.
What about you, Hannah? Any other bad advice that you've received?
Just similar to what Jess was saying earlier is just like you have to do it all day, every day. You have to do stand up all day, every day. A lot of people do, and I think there are certain points in your career you need to be doing that, but you can't always do that, and sometimes it can really hinder your writing because you're not living life, so you need to have a life outside of it to like enrich your set and what you have to offer, because at some point you're just always in the comedy community, you're always around comics. And it's like, you're starting to write about comedy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. So it's like, you got to be careful with that. And I mean, I think you should be getting up once a day, if not more. Like, everyone's like, you got to get up 5 times a night. And that's hard in LA because everything is so spread out. Other cities, it's easier to do. But I think you also have to be able to be like, okay, when do I need to slow down and take care of myself and take a minute? Because, I mean, I have done less stand-up this past month than I have been doing this year. I'm usually doing like multiple shows a week, which has been awesome and been such a blessing. But now I'm getting back into stand-up and sketch, more motivated and with more ideas than I had before.
Yeah,
so I think sometimes you just have to,
and like you said, living life. If you're, how are you ever going to write that funny bit about an interaction that you had on the street with someone if you never went out and took that walk with your dog? You know what I mean?
Right. And people make things up all the time, and that's fine, but sometimes you need that outside inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, I think that instead of thinking of like every single day for the next 5 years I have to do this, I mean, I've said this before and like I'll probably say it many times after, is like we live life in seasons. For film and television, it's done in seasons, or like, you work in a production for like 3 months and then it's done with because the film's over or the season's over or whatever it is, and then you have more time to like do other things, and you can use that that time for everything. But I just think that it doesn't necessarily have to be every single day you're on the grind, and if you're not and you're failing, it's like, no, you're writing. Like I wrote a script within 30 days and I needed to like that 30 days where every day I was going to a coffee shop and writing, and like I needed that like routine and like sticking to it to get that out. But like that was for those 30 days, and I had like an endpoint, and I was like, okay, so we're done with that now. We can put it aside for a little bit. I'll come back to it and edit it in like a couple weeks. But, you know, in the meantime, I'm not going to worry about that writing. Maybe I'll fish around some ideas, but I'm not going to be stuck to that like strong, huge schedule of like grinding something out. So I don't know. Like, I just think, yeah, it doesn't have to be every single day.
Mm-hmm.
That's silly, especially like, again, if it's just going to put you in the mindset of like, well, then I'm not good enough if I'm not doing it. Because I think that's the biggest thing. Is like, if you're just like, if you say it every single day and then you don't meet it, and then your expectations, it like hinders you, and your thought of your confidence that if you can do it or not
like
do
placing
it.
this unrealistic goal on yourself.
Right. It's just, yeah, I think it's more of a mindset thing than anything else. Like, do your best. If it doesn't happen, give yourself grace.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Great. Is that everything? Maybe we should have started with bad advice and then ended on a happy note of good advice.
The happy note is now you know the bad advice. Maybe like be able to recognize what is bad advice.
Yeah.
And if something doesn't gel and if something doesn't seem right or sound right, you know, tell a friend. Like say like I heard this. Like, does this sound right to you before you test that theory?
I mean, maybe too, like, everything that you heard us say that was bad advice was actually really good advice for you. Maybe it's just a matter of, like, thinking of, like, well, actually, I did that and it worked for me. And maybe it's, I don't know, like, maybe it's just a matter of, like, figuring out, it's really just, like, what works for you. Taking in all the advice and, like, you know, sticking to it or making something better or whatever, twisting it in a way that works for you.
Amen, sister.
Okay, great. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, so go get set.
Send us your advice at the Get Set podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and go.
Please, I think we need it.
Yeah.
That's very good. Okay, guys, it's no surprise. We love you, and you love us. So show us a little more of that love. Subscribe, rate, review, and don't forget our Patreon at patreon.com/oldgirlsentertainment. Love you guys.
Okay.